Hello students, welcome to all. This is Dr. Vignesh Farmaika, lecturer in geography, Government Degree College for Women's, Begumpet, Hyderabad. In this section, the techniques of analysis in human geography part 2, we are going to discuss about the various techniques of analysis. In the previous session, that is video of techniques of analysis in human geography, we have covered the various points: introduction, techniques of analysis in human geography. In this we have covered cartography, digital mapping, GIS, and global positioning system. In this part 2 video session, we will discuss about the rest of the techniques of analysis human geography. The fifth one is remote sensing. Sixth is areal differentiation. Seventh is locational analysis. And the eighth is the spatial analysis or regional science. Now let us discuss about each of these following points. We start with the fifth technique, that is remote. Without data, no map can be created. GIS and analytical methods in general, they require data also. What is the source to get these data? How they get from? How do we get they get it? Primarily, cartographers obtain their necessary data or the information from explorations and travels. The contemporary geographers acquiring different types of data in various methods or ways. One particular important group of collection methods focuses on gathering information about objects from a distance. The term remote sensing describes the process of obtaining data or information using both photographic and non-photographic sensor systems. Remote sensing can be defined as the detection and recording of electromagnetic radiation signals from the surface of the Earth atmosphere with the help of sensors placed aboard aircrafts and satellites. These signals usually record in digital form, where each digit denotes one piece of information or data about an average property of a small area of the surface of Earth. In reality, we all are possessing remote sensor in the form of eyes in our human body, and it has been humanity's ongoing aims to improve their ability to get data information. Improving our eyes themselves by using telescope, enhancing our field of vision by gaining altitude, that is aerial view, that is climbing hills or mountains using balloons and aircrafts, etc. And improving our recording of what we are seeing or observing with the help of cameras are all advances in remote sensing process. Today, the applications of remote sensing mostly rely on electromagnetic spectrum to transfer data from the object to interest to the sensor. The conventional cameras or traditional cameras were used as the principal sensors until up to the introduction of Earth orbital satellites in 1960s. Aerial photography is still used for several routine applications, especially in the visible and near infrared spectral regions. Geographers have been using remotely sensed data since they first became available about 30 years ago. These geographers who study the climate of the earth, for example, use satellites to gather the data on atmospheric conditions for monitoring and predicting the changes. The remotely sensed data also are very useful in producing and updating the maps of physical, biological, cultural features at the surface of the earth. The ability of certain sensor systems to see through cloud cover and their unrestricted access to all portions of the earth provide information that may not be available from other sources. Geographers have played significant roles in efforts to use satellites data for taking inventory of and monitoring land cover both regionally and globally. There are various principal advantages of satellite remote sensing as given in the following paragraphs. One, the repeated coverage of an area facilitates analysis of landscape changes. Thus, the most recent Landsat satellites cover most of the surface of Earth every 16 days. These data are homogeneous and comprehensive. The second is, as data collected are in a digital format, a rapid data formation, transmission, and image manipulation are possible. For many parts of the globe, these are the only useful data available. The next is the remote sensing allows the collection of entirely new sets of data. It was satellite data that first altered to use the changing pattern of atmospheric ozone in high altitude areas. For women geographers, remote sensing is especially valuable in aiding understanding of human beings' use of the earth. Remote sensing is less useful if we are concerned with underlying economic, cultural, or political processes. The next technique that we are going to discuss is the areal differentiation. Areal differentiation term was coined by Richard Archon in his work titled The Nature of Geography in 1939, and it was revised in 1959 under the title of Perspectives in the Nature of Geography. Archon has defined the areal differentiation as the spatial distribution of physical human phenomena as they relate to one another. In other words, areal differentiation is the study of the distribution of phenomena, both human and physical, and how they are causally related to other phenomena in proximity in a geographical region or area expressed in the space. The concept of areal differentiation is a synonym for regional approach, which is considered one among the three significant approaches to understand or study the discipline of human geography. The areal differentiation provides the theoretical foundation for regional geography by conceptualizing space as consisting of indefinite units, that is physical and human, that may be distinguished from one another on the basis of a set criterion. In areal differentiation, human geographers describe and explain the unique features of a region. Areal differentiation represents one of the classical philosophical approaches to geographic inquiry. The earlier Greek and Roman geographers, such as Herodotus, Strabo, and Ibn Khaldun, have defined geography as chorology or chorography. Subsequently, the German geographers Kant and Richthofen described the geography as an ideographic. Richard Ocean was inspired by the aforesaid geographers, the Herodotus, Strabo, and Ibn Khaldun, who has considered the term areal differentiation as the essence of geography. In his work, Archon has stated that geography is based on a chorographic point of view, which distinguishes it from the systematic science. In other words, geography seeks to acquire a complete knowledge of the several areal inquiry of complete knowledge of the areal differentiation of the world and this delineation the surface of earth into different types of physical and cultural regions is the basic task of the geographers. After the Second World War, when several number of geographers adopted quantitative techniques to make scientific and universal laws in geography, the areal differentiation was criticized. The criticism was mainly that the areal differentiation approach is too simplistic, static and sterile. Despite all these omissions and commissions, the contemporary period geographers agreed with the Richard Arshon's definition of geography, which focuses on the description and explanation of the unique features of regions, which it termed as a areal differentiation. Actually, the areal differentiation has provided a basis for new directions in the human geography, economic geography, regional development, which seek to conceptualize the forces and factors that result in uneven economic development and regional imbalances. Another techniques of analysis in human geography is the locational analysis. In human geography, the new approach, which became known as locational or spatial analysis, or to some spatial science. It focused on spatial organization, and its key point concepts were embedded into the functional region, the tributary area of a major node, whether a port, or a market town, or a city shopping center. Movements of the people, message, goods, and so on were organized through such nodal centers. These were structured hierarchically, producing systems of places such as cities, towns, villages, and etc., whose spatial arrangements followed the fundamental principles. One of the most influential models for these principles was developed by German geographer Walter Christoller in the early 1930s, though it attracted little attention for the 2 decades. Locational analysis is based on the philosophy of positivism. The philosophy of positivism underpins the approach, which concentrates on the identification of theories of the spatial arrangements and is so closely linked to the discipline's quantitative evolution. A number of geographers in United States of America advocated the cause of locational analysis in 1950s, although it has much deeper roots in the works of pioneers who were later adopted by geographers. Bong in 1966, for example, wrote a thesis on theoretical geography based on the premises who stated that geography is the science of location. Others such as McCarthy were strongly influenced by developments in the field of economics to which they introduced the spatial variable. These linkages led to the close relations between geographers and regional scientists in the 1960s and 1970s, and illustrated by attempts to build the economic geography theories of spatial arrangements. By the late 1960s, those new practices were synthesized in influential, innovative textbooks on both sides of the North Atlantic. Notable examples include Peter Haggett's Locational Analysis in Human Geography in 1965, Richard Corley and Haggett's Models in Geography in 1967, Ron Obel, John Adams, and Peter Gould's The Spatial Organization in 1971, and Richard L. Morrell's The Spatial Organization of Society in 1970. Each of these emphasized the theme earlier pronounced by the Redford Watson that geography is a discipline in the distance. The geographers attempt to synthesize of the physical, cultural phenomena within an area to study the unique features of a region. It may be concluded from the above discussions that the regional synthesis is the main area of investigation of geographers. And the next technique of analysis is the spatial analysis or the regional science. The spatial analysis, which is also known as the regional science, is an important approach in human geography. Regional science examines the spatial issues in geography and planning. Spatial analysis is a type of geographical analysis which seeks to explain patterns of behavior and its spatial expressions in terms of mathematics and geometry, that is, locational analysis. For examples, includes the nearest neighbor analysis and Bayesian polygons. Many of the models are grounded in microeconomics and predict the spatial patterns which should occur. And for example, the growth of networks and urban systems given a number of preconditions such as the isotropic plane, movement minimization, and profit maximization. It is based on the tenet that economic man is responsible for the development of the landscape and is therefore subject to the usual criticism of the concept, such as the lack of freedom. Now, the methodologies of spatial analysis include geocomputation and spatial statistical theory, etc. The crux of spatial analysis is the realization that all things are related and For geographers, to say that things are related is usually to say that they interact. Perhaps the best examples of interaction in the contemporary world have to do with what is often described as a globalization, a complex set of processes with economic, political, and cultural dimensions. Dear students, so far the points covered in this module, both in part 1 and part 2 video session are introduction, techniques of analysis human geography, cartography, digital mapping, technique geographic information system, global positioning system, remote sensing, areal differentiation, and locational analysis, and the spatial analysis or the regional science. In the next session, I will be in front of you with a new chapter or new module. Till then, stay home and stay safe. Thank you, Nandal, and thank you very much.